Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is January 20th, 2025, and Joan Laporta's opposition have released another statement requesting that Laporta and his board of directors submit to a vote of confidence. Also, reports are stating that Barcelona have reached an agreement with Marcus Rashford for a loan until the end of the season. And finally, Hansi Flick stating that Wojciech Szczesny is one of the best signings Barcelona has made. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and we will begin this video with the news that Joan Laporta's opposition have released another statement requesting that Laporta and his board of directors submit to a vote of confidence. Now, this opposition was made up of the same groups that released the earlier statement discussing the same thing, that Barcelona submit to a vote of confidence or resign, or in the alternative, a censure motion would be submitted. And while some of these groups are Compromisaris FCB, Dignitat Blaugrana, Som Clam, which is Jean Camprovi's party, and Si al Futur, which is Victor Font's party. And again, together they've released a statement pretty much declaring their grievances, which are the same grievances as the previous statement. So if you want to know about it, check out my previous video. I don't want to be repetitive and go over the same grievances because it was pretty much the same list. And in the statement, they said the following: "We are members who live the club with intensity, passion, a critical spirit, and we seek excellence. We request that the president and the board of directors submit to a vote of confidence when the competitions have finished." Now, if you don't know what a vote of confidence is, it's pretty much what it sounds like. The Laporta would submit to a vote where the socios would vote, are they happy with his work? Yes, no. And then if the majority are happy, then he continues. If the majority are not too happy, then he gets to step down. Now, Joan Laporta, or at least sources close to the club, are stating that Joan Laporta's position is that he's not planning on resigning, that they respect that the socios, it's the socios' right to express their unhappiness with his work, and that instead they want to focus on continuing working to solve the club's financial situation, rebuild the stadium, etc., etc. And also the board of directors stating that they don't understand why the opposition keeps asking for a vote of confidence, saying that there is no bylaw that allows a vote of confidence, that yes, it has happened in the past, but there is no bylaw that discusses a vote of confidence. So the board kind of like, what do you guys, what are you asking for? It's not in the bylaws. Shouldn't you know that? That's pretty much the club's position. Now, I'm not one to support change of presidency midway through a term, because I think it does more harm to the club, unless there's something egregious like with Bartomeu, where we couldn't wait until his term was over because he was just doing too much damage. But I don't think Joan Laporta is at that level where he's doing irreparable damage that we have to get him out. So I'm not for Laporta resigning or being kicked out through a censure motion. I did say that if Dani Olmo left, then he should step down, but of course that didn't happen. He was registered. So I'm not for this vote of confidence or motion censure, whatever it may be. I think the best way to resolve this is through election. When Joan Laporta's term ends, if he decides to run for re-election, let the socios decide. If they like his work, yes, vote for him. You did not like his work, then don't vote for him. Vote for someone else. Now, on to the next bit of news, because Sport are reporting that Barcelona have reached an agreement with Marcus Rashford for a loan until the end of the season. Now, Barcelona are in desperate need to reinforce the left-wing position, and as such, they identified Marcus Rashford as the most feasible option during this winter, because A, there aren't many options out there, and B, Marcus Rashford wants to leave Man U. Man U wants Marcus Rashford out of there, and Marcus Rashford wants to come to Barcelona. As such, he was identified as the most feasible option. And Marcus Rashford has been prioritizing coming to Barcelona, even pausing negotiations with other clubs to wait for Barcelona to make a move. And now it's been reported that Barcelona have reached an agreement with the player to come to the club until the end of the season. And this operation has been greenlit by Hansi Flick. Now, as I explained during the live podcast, just because there's an agreement in place, it doesn't mean that Barcelona will for sure sign Marcus Rashford, because in order for Rashford to come, Barcelona have to clear space on their wage bill, whether it be Ansu Fati leaving, which right now he's refusing to do so, whether it be Eric Garcia finalizing his move to Girona or someone else. Barcelona have to offload someone in order to clear space for Marcus Rashford. Otherwise, he cannot come. Now, we move on to the next bit of news because, as you know, tomorrow Barcelona will be playing the Champions League against Benfica, which I'm very, very, very excited for. And, of course, Hansi Flick held the pre-match press conference where he discussed the importance of winning tomorrow's match, getting the 3 points, and trying to finish at the top of the table. Of course, Barcelona do have 27 million euros at stake in these two last matches against Benfica and Atalanta. I discussed that in detail during the podcast. So if you want to know the breakdown of those 27 million euros, make sure to check out the podcast. If you want to know how much Barcelona have made so far and that breakdown, also make sure to check out the podcast. Now, Hansi Flick was asked whether it will be easier for Barcelona to win the Champions League since they're doing really well in the European competition and they're not doing as well in La Liga. And this is what the German coach had to say. Winning the Champions League is one of the most difficult things in the world. We are doing well, but so are other teams. We are alive in all three competitions. We have to improve in the league. When I see how we play, I am proud. Against Getafe, we did it, but they are a difficult team. All I can say is that we will fight for the title, and we will see what happens in the end in the next few months, referring to La Liga title. So Hansi Flick saying, no, it's not going to be easier to win the Champions League. It's a difficult competition. Yes, we're doing well, but so are other teams, and highlighting that the fact that Barcelona are alive in all three competitions and that the team are going to try to fight for every single competition. And then Flick saying that despite Barcelona's dip in form, overall, he believes the team is doing well, and I absolutely agree with Flick. Yes, we had our blunders. Yes, we dropped points, but overall, we can all see it. This team is performing much, much better than previous seasons. In fact, I haven't seen Barcelona play this well since Luis Enrique era, which, of course, brings me to my next point, which has been this stat that I've seen floating around saying, oh, Xavi had 54 points by January and Flick has 39 points. And a lot of people have been asking me, Mo, what do you think about this stat? And what I think about it is it's a pretty useless stat. These whole random stops, oh, by October, by November, by January. If you look at the odd months, if you look at the months where the moon was full, all these stats are absolutely useless. How do I know? Well, if you look at the first 3 months of Hansi Flick, August, September, October, he had the best run this century, even better than Pep. So that's it, right? Hansi Flick is better than Pep. But then you extend it to January, and all of a sudden it's the worst run in 50 years. So which one is it? Is Flick better than Pep, or is Flick the worst coach we've had in 50 years? The answer is none, because these stats are pretty useless. These random stops that people make, let the guy at least finish the season before we even look at his stats, instead of doing these random stops. Well, by October, by November, by January, absolutely useless. And also, even if the season is over and we're comparing numbers, numbers on their own don't mean anything without any context. For example, goals, right? You can have a player with 2 goals, you can have a player with 1 goal. The player with 2 goals had 2 tap-ins in front of an empty goal. The guy with 1 goal grabs the ball in the middle of the field, dribbles past the whole team and scores. On paper, the guy with 2 goals is better, right? Not really, because his goals were tap-ins in front of an empty goal, while the other guy can dribble an entire team, right? The same debate with Penaldo and Messi, right? Everybody, Penaldo's fans are like, oh, Penaldo's better because he has more goals. Sure, he does have more goals, but Messi's magic. Messi can dribble an entire team and score. Penaldo's goals mostly come from penalty or tap-ins. So yes, he might have more goals, but doesn't mean that Penaldo's better than Messi. Same thing here. Sure, Xavi might have had more points by January, not by the end of the season, by January. Doesn't mean he's a better coach. Plus, let's not forget, Xavi's team fell apart in the months of January and February. These 2 months are not even over, so how can we even compare? But anyways, that's my point about those random stats that you might be seeing. Absolutely useless, so I don't even bother paying attention to them. Now, Flick was asked about Wojciech Szczesny. Is he going to be the goalkeeper tomorrow? Is it going to be Iñaki Peña? This is what the German coach had to say. It's one of the things we are discussing. Situations change. We saw that Tech did in the Super Cup. I really like the way he shows himself on the pitch, but we'll see tomorrow. I think he's one of the best signings we have made, not only because of the way he plays, but also because of his support for the players. It's great to see him and how he shows his experience to the young players. So once again, Flick not answering the question, not telling us it's going to be Szczesny or Iñaki, pretty much saying we'll see tomorrow. But of course, emphasizing the point that things have changed because we all saw what Szczesny can do. And now this, of course, has made a decision difficult for Flick. But who doesn't want this problem? Who doesn't want the problem of having to choose between a good goalkeeper or a good goalkeeper, right? We all want that problem. And then Flick highlighting the importance of Szczesny. Not only is he experienced, not only is he a good goalkeeper, but also he's been great in the locker room, helping the youngsters. And this just speaks volumes of the Polish goalkeeper. Now, finally, Hansi Flick was asked about the penalty, the missed penalty in Getafe match that was committed against Jules Koundé, and this is what the German coach had to say. Was it or wasn't it? Ha 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 ha. I don't think that's how Flick laughs, but anyway, I don't know what to say. The same thing happens in every game. You don't need the VAR. It's a clear penalty. What could I say? Now, there's not much to add here. We all saw it. It's a clear penalty. I've talked about it plenty, so I don't want to be repetitive and go all over again. But it's a pretty interesting because here we have Flick, someone who doesn't usually like to discuss refereeing decisions because he always says I can't control the referee, so I only focus on my players. But it's gotten to the point where the refereeing is so bad, where there have been so many mistakes against us, that even Flick, who usually doesn't comment on this, has had to come out and state the obvious, which that it was a clear penalty that we all saw. Now, the final thing I want to mention is Ansu Fati, and I discussed this during the podcast. Ansu Fati was included in the squad list for the first time after missing 4 direct matches. He was excluded from the squad list in 4 matches in 3 different competitions. Now, all of a sudden, he gets included, and not a single reporter bothers to ask, hey, Flick, what happened? Did things change? Is Ansu doing better in training? How it come he's all of a sudden included when he was excluded in the last 4 matches? Did anyone think of that question? But anyways, this is why I always complain about sport reporters, because you have a chance to ask a question, ask a good question, instead of a lot of the dumb questions that they ask. But anyways, I did do the podcast earlier today, so make sure to check it out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, Visca Barça.